But what exactly did that gesture mean?
Well, it's part of, if one reaches Freemasonry, then you take certain oaths, and one of them is that you'd rather have your throat cut than to divulge secrets of Freemasonry.
The sign is given by drawing the hand smartly across the throat and dropping it to the side. This is an allusion to the symbolic penalty at one time included in the degree, which implied that as a man of honor, a Mason would rather have his throat cut across than improperly disclose the secrets.
I don't think anybody very seriously believes that these threats will be carried out. But this doesn't detract from the psychological force of it. There's nothing like fear to instill loyalty. But I think even more powerful is the other fact that comes out in the ritual, where they say not only will these appalling things happen to you physically, but you will be cast out from us in every other way. In other words, if you betray the Freemasons, you're like the bloke who runs away in wartime, the chap who lets the regiment down, the one who lets the side down, who suddenly becomes the total outsider, the strikebreaker who's sent to Coventry for 20 years. In other words, they say, we're the most important thing in your life.
We never spoke. Words and actions, and it wasn't an idle gesture. It was one I took and in the way in which he meant it to be given.
John Simmons resigned from his lodge, dismayed at the gap between Freemasonry's high principles and their often shady practice.
You agree to be a good man and true, and strictly to obey the moral law. You are to be a peaceable subject, and cheerfully to conform to the laws of the country in which you reside.
As portrayed in the Freemasons' own video, these moral principles are read out to every lodge master at his installation. But apparently too many Masons stray far from the Masonic ideal. Leonard John Gibson is a case in point. In 1979, Gibson was installed as Master of the Waterways Lodge, which meets at the Southgate Masonic Centre in North London. He had reached this rank just 7 years after his initiation. But Masonry was not Gibson's only interest. At that time, Scotland Yard's flying squad was circulating a confidential handbook of London's top 100 violent thieves, among them Worshipful Master Len Gibson. On one page was his mugshot, on the next his criminal record, including convictions for handling stolen goods and shop breaking. Gibson's modus operandi, or crime speciality, was shown as armed robbery. Yet there were 8 policemen among the brethren of the Waterways Lodge at the time Gibson was master. One of them was former Flying Squad Chief Inspector John Bryan McNeill, who declined to talk to us. Perhaps these policemen saw no conflict in being in the same lodge as a convicted criminal. If so, they were not alone in this view, as later events proved. Soon after becoming Worshipful Lodge Master, Gibson pulled off one of Britain's biggest ever robberies, the theft of silver bullion worth £4 million. 3 months later, he was arrested, and in January 1981 at the Old Bailey, he was given a 10-year jail term, as were 2 other Masons in the gang. So what happens to Masons convicted of serious crime?
They should be excluded from the institution completely. As far as being Freemasons is concerned, there should be no road back. That is my personal opinion. They should be excluded from the order and never be taken back.
Not all of Freemasonry feels that way, for the silver robbers weren't thrown out. Throughout Gibson's 5 years in jail, he was listed by the Waterways Lodge as a country member. On his release, the lodge welcomed him back. And even after newspapers revealed that the robbers were Freemasons, the Brotherhood's ruling body, Grand Lodge, decided they could stay in the craft. Then, 6 weeks ago, Grand Lodge changed course. At a 90-minute hearing, the robbers were allowed to plead their case in front of hundreds of Freemasonry's high and mighty. Most voted against the criminals, so they were expelled, but only after an intense and unprecedented debate. We asked Freemasonry's Grand Secretary what was the argument in favour of the robbers remaining in the Brotherhood.
Nothing that really held much water. They felt that they'd repaid their debt to society. which I think is probably not quite true, and it's one of those offences, if you look at the law, it's one which can never be spent. They joined their Freemasonry, they felt they got something to contribute to it. And Grand Lodge felt that they might have something to contribute, but their presence as convicted robbers was an embarrassment.
It took 9 years for Grand Lodge to discover that armed robbers performing Masonic rituals alongside police was an embarrassment to the Brotherhood.